Welcome to Latitude 40, redesigning tourism on a small island. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We acknowledge the Palawa people of the Trawulawai Nation and recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and culture of the islands. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. The first thing you'll notice on Flinders and the Furneaux group of islands is the breathtaking scenery. In every direction, what you see is like nothing else in the world. It's deeper than quiet beaches and coastlines, mountains and mist. These islands have a rich and dark history and an intensely passionate community that wants to reckon with its past and build the right future together. No one is here because it is the easiest place to live. Everyone is here because it's different. When something works on these islands, it tends to be small and special. As the rest of the world chases growth, we chase meaning. We have a complex relationship with change because we understand what it can bring. It's different here, and we make different invitations to visitors. For an unforgettable time on Flinders Island, learn to be one of us for a few days, a week, or the rest of your life. Slow down, listen, get lost, contribute. Don't try to change this place. Let this place change you.
I'm Debbie Clark.
And I'm Josie Major. We're honoured to be your hosts for this Latitude 40 series, sharing the stories of the Flinders Island community and the Island Away Regenerative Tourism Living Lab.
My name is Annie Revie, and I am originally Scottish. The accent stays forever and ever. We came to Australia in 1974. So we've been here for, 47 or so years. It was a big thing for me. I didn't really want to come. It was my husband who really wanted to come to Australia. I was quite happy in Scotland. But Australia's been good to me. I'm an educator. Has been my love and my profession. I'm 76 years old. I came here when I was 28. It's a long time ago. I mostly have lived in Tasmania, and I ended up on Flinders Island because my daughter has a house here, and because her work brought her over here a lot, so she bought a little house, and my daughter didn't come to Flinders so much, so I ended up living in her little house, which is very lucky. So I'm living in this very special place.
Yeah, so tell us about life on Flinders. What's unique about it, and what do you love about it?
This is an interesting answer, but the first thing about Flinders is really that it really is unique, in my opinion. Almost everybody who comes to Flinders somehow, unless they're real towny types and that's the kind of life they just can't be without, they just believe that Flinders is really unique. Its history is unique. Its beauty is unique. Its people are different. They're very friendly, and so on. So we're in the middle of the Bass Strait, and You know, what some people don't know is that the Flinders group of islands, the Furno group of islands, going back 8 to 12,000 years ago, they were a land bridge that joined the mainland of Victoria to mainland Tasmania. And between 12,000 and 8,000 years ago, this ocean began to rise, and the Flinders group is really what remains of that land bridge. It's got beautiful mountains, and it's got peaks that are really different. You know, it's got rounded ones and rugged ones and tall, thin ones. There's plenty of lovely beaches as well. Like, I once read a visitor's comment on the island, and he said there's a painting round every corner. And it is true. It's a physically beautiful place. Nowadays, well, I guess it always has been, but since, you know, it's an island, it's an island of about 75 kilometres by 40 or thereabouts, or 70 by 45, one or the other. And so it's not big. It's only got a population of around about 1,000. And some of these don't live here all the time. Some of these are people from elsewhere. It's got beaches, coastal scrub, farmland, not so much cultivating farmland. The main things that the farmer grows here is grass, because it's about cattle and some sheep. So the cattle and the livestock industry and the beef and lamb industries are the main things that keep the farmers going. It's got 4 small population centres, you know, each with maybe, 200 or, you know, up to 200 people, 200 or thereabouts in Whitemark, which is the main one. And then there's farms and houses in the more remote parts all over the place. Even although I only live about 200 metres or so from a beach, but I don't see the beach from my house. But I see the main mountain, which is Mount Strzelecki, and almost everybody then has a view of some kind that is beautiful. It's got a very diverse population. 17% of our people are Aboriginal heritage. It's got way above its average, older people, way above the average in Tasmania even, and in Australia in general. It's got people who are Aboriginal. It's got people who were sealers, have come from sealer stock, from convict stock, from Straits people stock. It became a place for soldier settlement after the 2 world wars, and it's you know, when the land bridge was there, the Aboriginal people would have travelled back and forward between mainland Australia and what is now Victoria and mainland Tasmania. It's got a very, very dark history. I mean, it's got some nice things too, obviously, but it's got a very dark history as regards the Aboriginal people. Tasmania was quite an early part of European settlement here, but mainly because it was used as a convict settlement. Some people, of course, would call it settlement. The Aboriginal people, and I would probably agree with them, would call it invasion. There were wars, there were massacres, and what were left of the Aboriginal people were rounded up, and there wasn't that many of them. And they were rounded up and they were brought to the islands, and they were promised that they would have a good future and that they could still hunt as usual, and this would just be like their own land in Tasmania. They were brought eventually, after stopping off at various islands, they were brought to a place referred to as Waibelena, that is just outside of White Market. And there was a chapel built there, and that is still there. There was a commandant's house, and there were Aboriginal houses. Waibelena means black man's houses, but they were very poor in terms of the air that people breathed living in those houses, the dampness, the white man's diseases, all of which attacked these people, and one by one they died. It makes you weep just to think about it. And frankly, that kind of feeling went on because Aboriginal people were absolutely discriminated against in Tasmania terribly. And it's only now that it's being recognised, if you know what I mean. In spite of all that, it's a very, very safe place. People are friendly. They care for one another. If I was in need of help, I would just call it up and somebody would help me. We've got a story that we call the Flinders story, and it's referred to as the Islander Way, which is what our project is called. And it's about the bits in the story that I just love are things like, this is a very special place. Don't try to change this place or its people. Let it change you. And then there is another bit that says, we don't chase growth. We don't chase really money as the main thing. We chase meaning from the place, meaning from each other, meaning from the land. So it's very, very special.
Beautiful. So, Annie, you've probably answered the next question that we have, which is what made you want to take on a leadership role on Flinders? And listening to you talk about your place with such deep love and passion, I think we can understand why, but would love to hear from you, why you took on this role and what contributions you're hoping to make.
Yes. Thank you for that question. It's actually, I am a bit of a passionate person. I do know that. Sometimes it's for good, but sometimes, yeah, well, not everybody does. Some people get a bit scared of passion. So it wasn't really the passion that brought me here. It was more that. So I was a primary school principal in Launceston, and I was coming up to retiring, and I could have worked for a long time more, but I was getting the feeling of the whole bureaucracy was like taking over, and the emphasis, and it has become this way in Australia in schools a lot. So I was about 56 at the time, and I decided to retire. So my husband and I sold our house in Launceston, and we bought a caravan, and we went travelling in Australia, which was wonderful. So we actually lived in our caravan for 4.5 years, and I then wanted to settle down again. And also the humidity in the north of Australia was getting to be too much. So we decided that we would come back to Tasmania and give a try to settling down again. So that's when my daughter said we could have her house. And then I started to think, right, well, what am I going to do? What's going to make me feel challenged, and what's going to occupy me? And I just remember one day thinking, I know what I could do. I could stand for council. Now, I was here about 2 years before I did that, so I was a bit more known by then. And somebody said to me, why don't you stand for mayor? Because the mayor's standing down. And I thought, I don't think so. I don't know anything about local government. However, I sort of got talked into that and decided I would give it a go. And although it was hard work and it was a really big learning curve, I've enjoyed most of it. And I love the thinking that you have to do. And being mayor was a brand new experience. Being in local government was a brand new experience, but it's a challenging one, and I quite like challenges. So you then kind of asked me, what contributions have you made and would you like to make? And so I've looked at some of those, and I'd have to say before I say this, you don't do this alone. You do it with a team of people. You do it with other councillors and council staff, and to a bigger extent, more and more, with the community. You just can't do things to people all the time. You've got to do things with people, I really believe. So things that we've been working on and continue to work on are transparency. I really believe that you have to be as transparent as you can. It's not easy, and it's hard to achieve because no matter what you do, people say you're not being transparent. It's a hard one. As you probably know, communication is hard. It's not easy. And people will say, look, it's just communication. But, just communication doesn't exist. It's a continuing thing. And I once heard a person I truly respected in the literacy area saying, as soon as you open your mouth in the English language, you're in grave danger of being misunderstood. And that's what's at the bottom of communication, is language and understanding and, meaning. So community engagement has been another thing that we have really wanted to do. And it wasn't particularly a focus anywhere much until the last few years. And we have really tried hard to make that happen. It's got a long way to go, but it is happening. We did our main strategy plan with quite a lot of community engagement. I'd have to still stress, heaps more to go, always heaps more to go, but we made a big start to it. And so most of our planning that is about whether it's tourism or whether it's about housing or about waste or about anything is aiming to be aligning with community values. I think you have to be flexible. We always aiming for flexibility, because you can't just draw a line and put marks along it and say, right, this is where we're at, this is where we're going next, tick the box. That's not what planning for and with a community is about. How would I like to see it flourishing and thriving? And that is very aligned with where we're going with this project, even although we've once again got a long, long way to go. So the first thing I noted in terms of flourishing and thriving is we would like our population to rise a bit, because we're kind of living on the edge of sustainability. 1,000 people is not very much. Our tradespeople are getting old, as is the mayor, and we're close to the stage where we may not have enough people to take us forward in a sustainable way. So I'd like our population to go, 1,200, maybe towards 1,400, but if we got to 1,200, it would be a fabulous beginning, so that we could gain more of a sustainable lifestyle on the island. I would like then small businesses, a bit more small businesses. I'd like them to thrive and serve the needs of the people here. I'd like to continue the diversity that we have, because we do have diversity. I'd like that feeling of safety to continue. I mean, here, obviously, because the place is small and there's only about 1,000 people or so, but everybody talks to everybody. You don't go along the street and put your head down. And you always know when the visitors most visitors speak to you, but there are some who go along with their heads high. And I did say to one person, hello, you must be a visitor, because everybody else speaks to people here. So hello, how are you? So, the people here have a strong sense of belonging. And what I really want is that the people feel they are being listened to. And because of being listened to, that they'll kind of take up the reins. And from doing that, they'll accept ownership of this place in a way that makes it more than the place it is now. They've got to create, they've got to identify their values, their principles, what they want, what they love, what they don't want. They've got to preserve and maintain, how they want the place to be. And I hope that we get somewhere along the line with that. I'd like the community to value its own values, to understand what their values are, and to value this place, themselves, as well as any visitors. I'd like there to be a kind of a host-guest relationship between visitors and the community. Because when you have a host-guest relationship, it's like you're inviting people into your home. You know that they will value it. You know that they will not trash it. You know that they'll offer to do the dishes and that kind of thing. And we need people to participate in our island like that. I'd like to see the environment valued. It's valued just now, but it needs to be valued more. Like, we had visitors over the COVID time when Tasmania borders were closed. We had people cutting down trees and making fires and toileting all over the place because our infrastructures in that area are not amazing. And so we had people who were beginning to kind of trash the place, and the community hated it. And so, I'd like to see the community and visitors owning in the future a common bond to work together, to move on together, including the Aboriginal people and the non-Aboriginal people, to co-create this place along the lines that they want to, and to maintain it and value it. And I would love the culture of the people here to regenerate itself.
I love how you speak to the values of the community and the sort of, bringing together the values of your visitors and the values of your community and that guest host relationship. I think that's so pertinent to this kind of project that you're working on. And
yes, it is. It is.
Let's talk about the project that's underway that you're involved in now, the Island Away project. Describe that for us and how you see tourism contributing to the future of a flourishing Flinders.
I've already told you about its unique beauty. It's a great place for walking, for trekking, for fishing, cycling, rock climbing, camping. All these things are just there and free as well. So, admiring the beauty of the landscape, if you do nothing else, is amazing. But doing these other things, there's just so much room for them. The friendliness of the people is terrific. But what was happening with the people, the folks who began to really try to bring about their vision of making sustainable tourist industry here so that the island in itself would become more sustainable, was that they didn't really start with the island at its centre. They started with a marketing company from mainland Australia. they got one thing very, very right, and that was that they came up with a brand that was called what was it called? Unknown Land, Untold Beauty. Now that's very beautiful. I think it's like a poem in 4 words. But what they did was they targeted for their marketing the eastern seaboard of Australia from kind of Sydney south. They set out to put Flinders Island on the map, and they succeeded very well in that. They decided, with the help of their marketers, to have an event called a Food and Crayfish Festival. We don't get many crayfish here. Well, there's loads of them, but the locals, there's hardly any on the island because we've only got a couple of fishermen left. We can't get them ourselves. So it wasn't regarded as authentic by the locals. They had this Food and Crayfish Festival as the centre of things. All the chefs were brought in, even although we have chefs on the island. A kind of an event organiser was hired from Hobart. So you can tell by just that brief bit that I'm telling you that although these people did their best, but it really almost divided the island. That was the starting point for change. So that's when at one point I just serendipitously came across Sarah and Diane. I sought them out and I came across them. I'd heard that they were into regenerative tourism. And so, they talked to me about what it was. And basically the whole fundamental nature of regenerative tourism and the principles of it are that you start from where the people are. You consult and you engage. You ask them, what do you value about this place? What do you value about living here? What's the biggest thing you wouldn't like to lose? And when you ask people that question, the main answer is our lifestyle. We don't want to lose our lifestyle. That's what the people value. And so you've got to ask them, what do you value? What do you want? What do you not want? Etc. Tell us what's gone wrong. How have you seen tourism acting in the recent past? And they've told us we would have, Diane and Sarah did most of that. And because of COVID, it took a long time. But as well as that, it was a much deeper kind of engagement than you would normally see. It was sitting down with people for anything from 10 minutes to 3 hours and more. It was getting the real depth of how people see this place. And there's a roundabout in various forms. There was survey, there was postcards on which people could write what they thought. There was interviews of people and less formal, just conversations. And one person, as a response, actually opened up a little gallery for a while, for a month, and invited people to come in and write answers to questions. What did they think of the place and what did they value and all that stuff. So there was a lot done, and there would be close to 500 expressions of value in Diane and Sarah's hands at the moment.
Annie, that's just beautiful when you talk about the depth of engagement. That's amazing. You've just described what community engagement should be.
Yes, it is. I've never seen anything like it.
We're very privileged. We feel very privileged to be part of this.
Yes, well, I do too, to be quite honest, yes. It is a privilege.
What's your message to visitors?
My message to people in general is that this place, the people here are being consulted, have been consulted. They want tourism that's in line with their values. They're at the moment designing some experiences for visitors that will help to manage visitation to the islands and that will help to turn it into, hopefully, more like a host guest experience. We want people to leave a very small footprint. We even want people to participate and help us keep the place the way it is and help us improve it.
Thank you for listening to Latitude 40, Redesigning Tourism on a Small Island. This podcast is part of the Island Away project, which is being undertaken on Flinders Island by Designing Tourism. The project is funded by the Tasmanian Government.
We also acknowledge Designing Tourism partners Flinders Council, Visit Northern Tasmania and the Tourism Collab. The music is by Judy Jacques and the introduction, read by Yana Monone, is an extract from the Flinders Island brand story, The Island Away. This podcast has been hosted and produced by Good Awaits, Debbie Clark and Josie Major, with audio production by Clary Macklin.